we got rid of that skate back, so no problem. And we're going to come in on this side again with that skew. Outside. We're not going to go very far with that. We want to keep as much mass back here as possible. We're just going to kind of define it. Okay, now there's several different tools you can use for captive rings. There's specialty tools you can buy, but here's a couple I made. One from an Allen wrench. It comes down to a pretty sharp point. Keep in mind that when you use an Allen wrench, it's pretty tough steel. It'll hold an edge for a while. You've got to cut that tip off. Bring it back or you'll have too much torque. In this case, I've made this fairly aggressive down to a point, but it's fairly thick here. Here's one I think a little bit better that I made from a 8" by 1/4 inch round high-speed steel tool bit from Inco. They're about $3.50 for those blanks. They're big enough where you just about cut them in half and make two different tools, which is maybe what I've done. So we're going to come in here, and because it's a scraper, it's negative rake, which means the handle needs to be a little higher than the cutting edge, so we're going to raise the tool rest just a little bit. We're going to come in from both sides, taking turns, but before we cut through, we're going to go ahead and sand. So let me take just a moment and do a little bit of light sanding on the shape, because you've got to finish that sanding before you get these beads loose, or you've got a real challenge on these beads. Slow it down a little bit to sand. Okay, here's the outside sanding. Now let's take our captive ring. We're just going to kind of compare the two. First we'll start with this one. We're going to come in behind it, and you want to finish the cut where you've got a little bit of room in there for this thing to be able to sand it and for it to jingle jangle on here. So don't go too deep with the parting. Works pretty well. Now let me try this one. I call this the cat's claw, and you can see the profile as it narrows down fairly flat. Now, before we cut all the way through, I'm going to take a moment, take advantage of while it's still fastened, to go ahead and see if I can't get in there and do a little more sanding in that cut back area. So I'm going to slow this down a little bit and just get in here with something stiff. Okay. I think that's about got it. Now we'll just cut it free. Keep in mind when you're cutting these 3/8 inch diameter, you want it at least 3/8 inch back here where it's going to free up. So you got a thick ring. You don't want a real thin ring. Speed it up a little bit. Again, negative rake. Just a little bit. There's that one. That one. Now, you didn't see the smoke, but I can see it. You got to be kind of somewhat be aware. You apply some heat in here and press pretty hard, and you're going to burn it. And if you're not careful, you'll get some scorch marks on the rings. It'll be tough, maybe tough to deal with. So just kind of be mindful of that. And there we go. Now all we got to do is come back behind with the parting tool. Get this spindle here in the middle, a universal size or a uniform size of approximately 5/8 of an inch. Then we're going to do our final cleanup with our spindle gouge. Just remove those ruts. Get the mountains and valleys equal. And they'll just dance around, don't worry about them. You can tie them, you can fasten them off with a piece of tape if you like. Okay, let's examine it, see if we got any high, a little bit high here, so let's go back and do a little bit of work there in the middle. And I think the sandpaper will take care of the rest of it. So we're going to go ahead and sand that shaft, slow it down a little bit. Okay, I think we've about got it. Now, there may be a little bit of sanding inside there on those rings. Make sure we get rid of any rough edges. And one way to do that is just put in a piece of rough grit, roll it over, and then just twist these beads around it. First in one direction, and then in the other direction. This is an 80 grit I'm using because I'm trying to be kind of aggressive of getting rid of that little thin, sharp area where we parted it off. And what some people do is they'll put a piece of paper, wrap it around there with some double stick tape, and just turn the lathe on and let these things dance a while. That works too. Okay, I think we're going to call that good. I don't see that that's rough enough to be an issue. Now we're going to go ahead and part off this little wasted nib here, then come back and part this off. So let's go ahead and move some tools out of the way. Now, it gets a little spindly out here, so we likely get a little chatter, so we've got to make sure you use a sharp tool and take light cuts and adjust your tool rest so we're cutting right on center height. Take some coarse sandpaper to get rid of those edges. Slow it down a little bit. Come down here with a parting tool. Clean up a little bit on that edge. And I like to make these uniform. This one is a little thicker than that one, so I'm going to come back and Enough of that. Now, some people like to take this off with a saw. I'm going to go ahead and use a thin fluted parting tool. It gives it a pretty clean cut, and then I can press it against the belt sander if I have to. So it won't take much to clean that up. And there we have it. Okay, let's talk a little bit about finish. Sometimes the best finish is no finish, and there's virtually no finish that's going to survive a baby putting this thing in his mouth on a regular basis. So sometimes the best thing to do is sand it hand sand it a little bit finer. Buffing it, sometimes I buff it so it'll get kind of a really nice and smooth finish. I don't think I put any wax on it. If you want to put something on there, or if it's going to be more of a token or commemorative piece that to celebrate the baby's birth, and the parents really don't have any intention on giving it to the baby, then you might consider putting maybe an antique oil, 3 or 4 coats of an antique oil, and build up a nice shine. Mahoney's walnut oil works out well. It gives it a little bit of a sheen and protects it a little bit, but again, it's not going to survive the baby putting it in its mouth a whole lot. So that's the project. If you got any questions, let me know. If you enjoyed this, I hope you subscribe. If you have any ideas for a video, go ahead and post them or send me an email. Thanks for watching.